Did anyone read, there was like a book, it may have been part of a series, where like some kids like minds get sent back in time to the Mesozoic into like the bodies of dinosaurs, and the main character is like an ankylosaurus.
What?
Just talking about the tail is like a tool use thing, made me think of that, because they have to like carve these like monoliths out of granite, and I think he like bashes the rock to like make it so that his dad, who's a paleontologist, will find them in the present, and somehow that like convinces his dad to go fix this kid's like time travel machine that he built for a science fair project that accidentally sent his brain back in time.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second installment of Paleontologists Rank the Dinosaurs of Jurassic World Evolution 2. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Euoplocephalus, an ankylosaur from the Jurassic World Evolution game series, and the first one we're featuring in this video series. Before we begin, just to introduce ourselves again for any new viewers, I'm James Napoli. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at North Carolina State University and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
I'm Scott Johnston. I am the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at the Harvard Museum of Comparative Zoology.
Alex Rubenstahl. I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University.
And I'm Dalton Meyer, also a PhD candidate at Yale University.
And together, we're the Skeleton Crew.
Oh, and before we start, everyone remember to like and subscribe. Really smash that like button.
Alex, do you ever wake up and just kind of hate the person you've become?
Every day. And I hate all of you too.
Yeah.
So Dalton, why don't you walk us through the park you've built here?
Okay, well, it's not much of a park. It's simply a zone for Euoplocephuluses to chill. It's their chill zone. Here they are with their lake and their trees, and let's see some come out of the hatchery, because I am like, for some reason, enthralled with the hatchery animations in this game, and it does affect my assessment of each individual animal, is how cute they are when they come out of the hatchery.
They're just so great.
Well,
I do
And
think
maybe the ankylosaurs.
they kind of trundle, but
it
I
is-
wouldn't.
I would describe that as a trundle for sure.
This is a trundle.
I wouldn't expect them to gallop out, though, I suppose.
Now, does anyone know anything about the hands or feet of these animals? If these look good.
No.
The feet don't look bad. The hands, I think they have claws on all their digits, which is wrong. But
Because they're kind of like ceratopsian feet, right? Where it's like claws on the first three and then kind of an elevated fourth and fifth that don't have claws.
Yeah, I think they probably suffer a bit from like the herbivore hand-foot disease of all of the herbivores, which is why we're not going to spend too much time, I think, over the course of the whole series talking about the hands and feet. But these aren't too bad. And now you
Nah.
can't even see them.
see, that's the solution. Just
They're touch-
always have them in knee-high grass.
Yeah, they're tucked away where they belong, in the
Sc-
grass.
Scott, what are you, a bad paleo artist?
Ooh. Ooh.
Who's the comic book artist that like never drew feet or hands? Was that Rob Liefeld, or is he
It's
just
Rob
Big Muscle
Liefeld.
Guy?
It's Rob Liefeld, yeah. He can't draw feet. He also can't do like general perspective.
Oh, is that the guy that has the everyone looks like a everyone's shaped like a uterus? Just like really wide.
I'm pretty sure there's other descriptors for that shape, Scott.
So looking at an ankylosaur skeletal, I do think that these feet are wrong. Because as we said, the fourth and fifth toes don't seem to touch the ground. They kind of hang there.
See if I
Oh,
can find one that is,
4 feet or hind feet?
4 feet. And on
Okay.
the hind feet, they've got kind of a pad situation going on. So they still walk on their toes, not on the flat of the foot, and then they've got a big pad, kind of like an elephant, which I guess is kind of what's happening here. The 4 feet are also much smaller rather than the hind feet
in real life.
in real life, whereas in this game they're about the same size. So like in terms of accuracy, I guess there's a little bit that could be done to make the design slightly better. Although to be honest, it's not terrible.
No, it's really good.
And I'm struggling to care about ankylosaur designs because I don't study these animals and don't really think about them that much.
I like the way that the skin like folds and moves on this model. You can find one walking. It looks very naturalistic.
I agree. I also like that they're making the armor not look like these weird bony plates that the animal's wearing, but they actually look like they're part of it. Because these are just osteoderms, the same kind of armor on the back that like a crocodile has, right? They probably would have looked pretty similar in real life, like not really that differentiated from the rest of the body. A lot of art of ankylosaurs I've seen kind of makes the whole bony plate of the armor look like it's something that's external. Maybe taking a design cue from turtles, but that's not what they look like. And I think that this captures the spirit very well. I kind of missed it because I was trying to make eye contact with the camera and the future audience of the video.
Yeah, one of them smacked the other one with the tail, which, speaking of...
Oh, how topical.
Zool, which we talked about, I don't know how long ago now.
Different Canadian ankylosaur.
Yeah, but it was proposed that these tail club ankylosaurs are using them at least sometimes, if not predominantly, to kind of wail on each other on the flanks and display kind of ritualistic combat. And I think we just kind of had a little small example of that, which is oddly prescient of the game.
Yeah. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, which is probably most people who will be watching this video based on relative view counts, we discussed that paper in an episode of the Fossil Friday review that I'm going to link on the video right now. So go check it out if you want to learn more about ankylosaur tail clubs and what they use them for.
And remember to tail club smash that subscribe button on there.
Now, I have a personal experience with Euoplocephalus.
You do?
Which is that it's something in my data set, and it's kind of important amongst ankylosaurs because there's a specimen of Euoplocephalus at the AMNH in which the sutures of the skull, especially on the palate, aren't completely obliterated. And it doesn't even look like it's a young animal. So like a lot of ankylosaurs, all those bony plates are fused to the rest of the skull and obscure the sutures, or the sutures are completely closed, regardless whether they have osteoderms on top of them. But thankfully, Euoplocephalus, one of them for some reason has detectable sutures. So we thank Euoplocephalus for its sacrifice.
Those sutures are really important because a lot of our work as paleontologists is trying to see where the different bones of the skull contact each other and what structures they create. And that, speaking from experience, is really hard when the sutures close, which happens when the animals hit, I would say when they hit senescence, so when they're in very old age. It happens with humans too. We have cranial sutures, and as babies you have a soft spot where the bones aren't even contacting each other yet that allows our head to deform a little bit while we're being born. And as you grow, the sutures contact each other and start to kind of like merge into these squiggle interlocking sutures, and then by the time you hit old age they completely go away and all of the skull is fused into one element. So it is weird that there'd be what seems to be an adult Euoplocephalus that doesn't have fused sutures, because ankylosaurs also just fuse their sutures pretty quickly, I think.
No, yeah, there's an adult.
That's really great.
I mean, I'm assuming at the AMNH there is only the one Euoplocephalus skull, right? That I'm aware of.
I thought there were
No,
more.
you guys have a bunch.
Do we? Well, then where are they? Because I've only seen the one, and I've looked.
There was a
through most
paper
of
that
them.
came out. Maybe it's not just yours, but there was a paper that came out that's like a review of Euoplocephalus skulls for some reason.
There are 4 skulls at the AMNH.
Okay, I guess I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Aside not aside from the holotype, because the holotype is at the Canadian Museum of Nature. But yeah, Euoplocephalus is also like weirdly well sampled, right? Ankylosaurs are not common in the fossil record.
Which is strange, because you'd expect things that have a lot of big bony parts on them to fossilize pretty well.
You would, and yet...
And Euoplocephalus is... Oh my god, that was adorable.
I like that.
He's angry. He's throwing a little tantrum.
Euoplocephalus is also, I wouldn't say unique, but a bit more distinctive when it comes to other ankylosaurs, at least the tail club ankylosaurs, in that it has a couple of the front osteoderms right in front of its shoulder be a bit more pronounced than the other ones, kind of giving it these two kind of like larger spikes right at the base of the neck, which normally we only see that in, or at least I think we only normally see that in the nodosaurids. The ones that didn't have tail clubs, things like we'll get to later, things like Sauropelta that just have absolutely gigantic shoulder spikes.
Wouldn't it be funny if Sauropelta winds up being the next episode?
Oh man, we're gonna have
That'd be
so
very
much
funny.
to talk about.
God, nobody will ever believe us if that happens by pure random chance.
Yeah.
It's everyone's favorite dinosaur, Sauropelta.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah, I pulled up an image of one of the nicer skulls of Euoplocephalus, and I think they did a pretty good job of kind of capturing it in the game. I'm not sure about these like little smaller horns in front of the big horns, but there do seem to be those, I guess. So
I'm looking
they-
at the skull diagram now to cross-reference. Kind of. That horn you're talking about.
this little one here.
Yeah, what actually I think is that middle horn doesn't really exist. There's kind of one big one over the eye socket and then a much bigger one at the back corner of the skull, and there's not one between them, at least in the skull that I'm looking at.
Well, there's only two here, so
Oh, there's only two. I'm sorry, I thought I
Yeah.
saw three.
so it's just the cheek one is
Oh, right, that's what I
poking
was
out
looking
in
at.
between.
Yeah. So the big one, or there should be one directly over the eye, not really posterior to it, based on my reading of the skull diagram, but otherwise it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I like that it looks like they've kind of noticeably given it keratin on its little beaky guy here.
Yeah. One other thing I love about the head is you can actually see the little bony plates that make up a lot of the covering of the skull in these animals. So Alex kind of alluded to it earlier. They tend to have osteoderms over all of their cranial bones on the outside. And we actually have a name for these bones in ankylosaurs, which is a term I'm desperate to use in a scientific paper, but I don't study these animals. They're called capitegulae.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
That sounds very Roman.
it
I
is.
know it's Latin, but
It is Latin. And it means, I think it means head shingles. So that's what
That's
they
a
do. They
good
just
word.
roof the head, right? And they're actually very diagnostic for different species. So the different pattern of the capitegulae mirrors the different species that exist of these animals. In a way that's kind of analogous to how modern day herpetologists use cranial scales to tell apart different species of lizards and snakes, like with a lot of accuracy. So it does seem to be something that's reflecting the like developmentally enforced patterns of scalation on the head. Which
So-
I think is a super cool detail because probably other dinosaurs had very stereotyped scalation like that too, and we just don't see it because they're not turned to bone and preserved with the skeleton.
So would you say that these like head shingles and big horns on there give it a well-armored head?
I would say it has a well-armored head. And coincidentally, if you mix a bunch of Latin and Greek together... actually, no, I think it's all Greek.
it's all Greek to me.
You beat me to it.
You ass. It's if you put that all in Greek, you get the word Euoplocephalus, which is the name of this animal.
Should we talk about the tail?
I think we should.
I don't
Like
think
what
it's
the
important.
tail is.
Let him go. I
Oh,
love
let
their
him go.
run.
The run's pretty good. Before we talk about the tail, just while we're looking at the run, I did see while doing very cursory research into Euoplocephalus that, at least based off its like shoulder and I think its pelvis, like someone has proposed it was about as like good at getting around as a rhino or a hippo. So
That's terrifying.
Yeah, imagine an angry one of these charging at you at 45 miles an hour.
I think that's a pretty old study. So I don't know like how true it is and how well it's held up, but cool to think about.
It is cool to think about. God, I almost can't imagine it, but I mean, I'd like to see that studied with more modern tools. But it doesn't sound implausible. I mean, rhinos don't look like they should be able to move quickly either, and they can really move. So I think one thing that's worth commenting on for Euoplocephalus is maybe related to the reason that we have so many of them, is that they come from one of the richest fossil sites in North America. The Dinosaur Provincial Park in Canada, which is where the Dinosaur Park formation that's named for the provincial park crops out. I think most of the outcrop area is located within Dinosaur Provincial Park, although there's apparently Dinosaur Park in the US. I just saw a specimen attributed to there. I don't know. All of these formations are complicated. But to bring it back down to a world that people watching this video will care about, the Dinosaur Park formation is this rock unit that is incredibly rich in dinosaur fossils. Now, back when Canada was less established and didn't claim dominion over all of its fossils, a lot of American paleontologists went there and took fossils. So we have a lot in the American Museum of Natural History and Smithsonian and everything. But Canada has changed its laws, so now only Canadian institutions are able to work there. And the major one is the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller, which is located right next to Dinosaur Provincial Park and has one of the richest North American fossil collections in the world. And so we know a lot about Dinosaur Provincial Park and the dinosaurs that inhabited it. It's the most complete Mesozoic ecosystem we know about. And we tend to have a lot of different fossils of animals that lived in it, Euoplocephalus being one of them. Now, I believe Dalton has also bred a representative of the animal that probably hunted Euoplocephalus.
I have.
Attempted to.
Or attempted to. That's a good caveat. So
it might give us a good excuse to talk about that tail.
It might. Let's see what happens.
Now, hypothetically, how smart is Euoplocephalus?
Their brain is about the size of like 3 walnuts.
Did anyone read? There was like a book. It may have been part of a series where like some kids' like minds get sent back in time to the Mesozoic and to like the bodies of dinosaurs, and the main characters like an ankylosaurus.
What?
Just talking about the tail is like a tool use thing made me think of that, because they have to like carve these like monoliths out of granite, and I think he like bashes the rock to like make it so that his dad, who's a paleontologist, will find them in the present, and somehow that like convinces his dad to go fix this kid's like time travel machine that he built for a science fair project that accidentally sent his brain back in time.
So for other pedants about Tyrannosaur taxonomy, I will briefly note that Albertosaurus, the dinosaur depicted here, did not live in the Dinosaur Park formation, but its nearly identical cousin Gorgosaurus did, and they're about to fight, so I'll shut up briefly.
I don't know if they're going to fight yet or not.
Oh, I thought
they're all.
It looked like
they're
they were
moving
on a
towards
beeline
one
for each other.
another.
That's promising.
I thought Albertosaurus was from Dinosaur Park.
Albertosaurus is Horseshoe Canyon.
Oh.
Yeah. Although it's confusing because Gorgosaurus is so similar to Albertosaurus that some people say it's another species of Albertosaurus.
Oh, they're fighting each
Oh,
other.
Hey!
Oh, wow.
That was cool.
God, he's gonna Zool.
No, he didn't though, because he hit him in the face and not on the flank.
That's true.
This is highly inaccurate, and I cannot watch it.
Haven't they
And I
even
haven't
read
done-
Arbor et al.
Consider
2022?
about that.
It is worth noting that Alex and I are currently working on Albertosaurs a little bit, and we might have more to say on the channel about them in the future. But for right now, Albertosaurus is close enough. It's fine. It's what we're going to use to be a predator in every enclosure that's mimicking the Dinosaur Park formation, and
Yeah.
it's okay. Don't complain about it in the comments, please.
Well, there's no Gorgosaurus
And kids,
in the game.
it's
so-
important to keep in mind. I mean, Jimbo and I have both worked on like everyone's 2 favorite meat-eating dinosaurs when they were a kid, right? We're doing stuff on dromaeosaurs, doing stuff in tyrannosaurs, and I just want to let everyone know, doing work on dromaeosaurs is very cool and rewarding and fun, and working on tyrannosaurs makes me wish that someone went back in time and destroyed every fossil of this group.
Here we go.
Oh, this is good.
Let them fight.
Let's see what they do.
Must be a very desperate Albertosaurus. Oh, never mind.
Did it
He's
just
just-
one-shot it?
Yeah, it's a skill issue on the side of the Euoplocephalus.
Euoplocephalus ain't sh**.
It's Melania the Albertosaurus.
Well, that was cool. That was unexpected.
That head was not well armored enough.
I'm just gonna make some more so we can increase our odds of some more encounters and maybe getting to see them use the tail. I mean, we're beating around the bush, but obviously the tail has a huge club at the end.
Right. It's a big club.
Dalton, maybe you should soup up some ankylosaurs, really just roid them up to see if they can actually take out an Albertosaurus.
Yeah, what are their relative combat scores?
Well, let's see. Hang on.
Oh, another fight.
Fight.
Let's see if this lasts longer than 20 seconds. Come on, hit him. Oh. So what we're learning from this is the armor was a display feature.
Well,
really.
right. Well, let's consider this in light of the recent paper, Arbor et al. 2022, that posited that the tail club was primarily used for individual combat within ankylosaur populations for, mating displays and things like that. It's possible they wouldn't even think to use the massive several 100-pound knob of bone at the end of their tail as anything other than an interest-specific weapon.
We should establish what those are.
Just like deer.
Right.
Yeah, the tail clubs are.
Hang on. Before we talk about the tail clubs, I need to look at one.
Yeah,
another fight. Another in the longest
Another
stream.
kill. Oh, there he goes again.
Oh my god, this is horrible.
We're supposed to. How are we going to
you're
rank them
killing
if
them
they're all
all.
dead?
All right. Well, here's one with an intact club. What's this club made of, Alex?
It's enormous osteoderms that are fused to the tail. Just these huge osteoderms that become co-ossified to this kind of weird fused up gross tail they have.
What are the vertebrae doing at the end of the tail?
I think they're also all fused up.
Yeah.
It's like a sledgehammer. It's stiff near the end. It's more flexible.
There should be a good photo. There should be decent photograph pictures.
I'll put up a photo on the screen now.
Let me see if I can make some souped up Euoplos.
Because I'm thinking of at the AMNH on display, we have the ankylosaurus tail that has it looks like it has scales, but they're like other osteoderms in the vertebrae, and they're all fused together, and it's really gross looking, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm so angry.
They're heavily interlocked. We're making a set of hunter-killer ankylosaurs that are going to be deployed into the ecosystem and just hunt down and kill every Albertosaurus that there is.
I'll deploy them at around the same time as this new batch of Albertosauruses, and hopefully they'll just immediately be mad at each other.
Oh my god, this is going to be horrific.
This is reminding me of the first time that I played the original Jurassic World Evolution, where they ask you to make Struthiomimus and then Triceratops and then release a Ceratosaurus into there. And me, being big paleontology brain, is, oh no, I'm going to watch this Ceratosaurus get absolutely obliterated by an animal the size of an elephant with spears for a face. And then it proceeded to absolutely murder everything that ate plants in that entire paddock, and I was so devastated.
Yeah. The only thing I don't really like about Jurassic World Evolution is the herbivores are kind of pushovers a lot of the time.
Yeah. That's kind of a bummer.
It's kind of a bummer because ankylosaurs were big and heavy and covered in armor, and it should be really difficult for anything to kill these.
I imagine, and maybe this says more about me than it does.
That was great.
God, it's like the sharks and the jets. They're gonna start snapping and singing.
No, but if I were a predator, I think I wouldn't even bother with some
Yeah.
not only is it hard to kill because it's got all that shit on it, but it must be annoying to eat.
Oh, probably.
Why? Gross. I don't want that.
Not many things really go out of their way to hunt porcupines.
Except fisher cats.
Except fisher cats, but they're also roughly the same
Oh,
size.
they're look at them.
I know this isn't a video about them, but that was pretty cool.
I wish this were a video about them. They're
Stealing
my
the
favorite
spotlight.
dinosaur. Oh, so I had this children's book. I don't know if anybody else had this, but it was an illustrated story about an ankylosaurus, not Euoplocephalus, but close. And it's the only time I've ever even seen this discussed, although it seems like a great idea. When it gets attacked by a bunch of T-Rex, it just lays down.
I've heard
seen
that
that.
before. It's
Yeah,
just,
Right, it's like it just sits on the ground. There's no
Yeah, I
weak
buy
spot left. It's just solid bone and spikes, and it just waits for them to leave.
Swing the tail around when it gets near there.
Right. I don't know. And so I guess, like, we've made jokes about it a few times, but so the paper that came out recently that was discussing the function of the tail club was basically using the fossil of the ankylosaur Zool to posit that the main function of the tail club was for fighting rivals for the right to mate or something similar to that. It says in the paper, and it seems very logical, that they probably also used it for defense if they had to, but it was probably not primarily a defensive adaptation, which makes some sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. If we look, what might be neat to pull up is there's a really beautiful Euoplocephalus fossil that is like a whole huge chunk of the front end of the animal. And we can pull up an image of that and look at and compare it to kind of how they've reconstructed the armor here. Like there's been a lot of back and forth in the literature on different ankylosaurs as to how the big osteoderms were laid out. So like they have like this whole layer of little tiny ones, which you can see pretty nicely here, that make the bulk of like the armor. But then they've got the big fancy ones. And there's been various interpretations because of the lack of, good complete specimens of these things as to how these big ones are arranged. Go into this fight. Hold on, bring a snack. And there's a really great specimen of Euoplocephalus that has, in life position, these osteoderms. And they've done, I think, a pretty good job of showing it. Like it has like these kind of bigger ones up front, and then they taper into small ones, and they're paired along the midline like this. What the game seems to be missing is there's like a little ridge of smaller ones that goes right down the middle.
So are they actually organized like that? Because like I'm looking at these things, they look like pine cones. And like I know there's a lot of discussion every now and then about, for various dinosaurs, the organization of the osteoderms when they're lined up versus scattered or...
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Another fight.
It's okay.
Maybe this one will win.
Was that one of the elite Navy SEAL Euoplocephalus?
No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, those have now just intermingled with the general population, and they're sleeper agents. We don't know
Spec Ops.
when they'll get activated.
Line.
So, Amelia, your question on the organization?
Yeah, basically, like, because they have them, like, all paired up and all lined up in, like, armadillo segments, and I'm just wondering how...
Yeah, that seems to be correct.
At least for this one.
Okay.
I think, Jesus Christ, I think some of the Mongolian ones are like pretty articulated, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Zool is the source of information for a lot of that. Like, so to the best of our knowledge, they're paired like that. Carnotaurus is the one that really turned out to kind of have a more random arrangement with them not paired. But that's
I don't
because
even think they're really osteoderms.
That's what I was saying. They're not really osteoderms, so they're just feature scales. So it makes sense that they've got a more random, sparse arrangement.
Right.
Osteoderms, to my knowledge, always develop in a bilaterally symmetrical paired way.
I think unless they're right down the midline.
Unless they're right down the midline. I've never seen them irregular.
Well, what do they do in lizards? Which is what I should know.
I think that's a key
should.
distinction between lepidosaurs and like archosaurs, at least that I've seen, is like the midline row of scales being paired or singular.
Yeah, the mid-dorsal scale row.
Well, because like I don't see lizard osteoderms much because they're small in modern stuff and they just aren't kept with herpetological collections, and with fossils they don't typically have them.
Well, so I also know it's like, I think it's a different way of doing osteoderms in general. Like, because like monitors have a tiny osteoderms all over the body. Right. And I think that those followed the general scalation pattern. What I don't know is, but I think like when you get to the really heavily armored lizards, I think they're also bilaterally symmetrical. So I think osteoderms always tend to be. But unless they're the very irregular ones that like Heloderma has, but those also might be symmetrical, I don't really know. But in archosaurs in particular, crocodilians are always bilaterally symmetrical. This is awful. Dalton, why are we letting this happen? You put 6 killers into the enclosure. You tossed in a hand grenade and you closed the door.
No.
The entire wholesale slaughter of some of the most incredibly well-protected dinosaurs that have ever lived by what is functionally a really large angry chicken is
oh my god, it's functionally, theropods are just big chickens.
I do.
Get the out of here with that dog.
Well, it's just a crocodile living in a Baba Yaga house.
Yes.
That's a good reference.
To Baba Yaga.
I'm hip with all my Russian folklore references.
I took a class on that in college.
Oh god, it's about to
Really?
happen again.
Yeah, it really did.
Oh,
We were
That's
there as
fun.
it was
It's like
about
an
to be
Eastern
killed.
European mythology or something.
It was literally Russian folklore.
I'm sorry. I love the way they just tip over and die.
They don't make any effort at all.
they're like the banthas in the new Star Wars series, where they just take one hit and then keel completely horizontally over.
I feel like
Oh god.
if anything, if these animals died, like what they would do is die straight down.
Yeah.
And just deny.
I wonder if
just like-
tyrannosaurs were able to bite through their osteoderms. Probably, right?
At least like T-Rex, I bet.
Probably.
I think like the fact that they're so wide is part of that defense.
Right. You can't get your jaws around it.
Yeah. And like you could bite through the little tiny ones, but then you'd be putting like one of these big pokey ones like right in the roof of your mouth. And that wouldn't be a fun time for anybody.
Yeah. I do wonder if for T-Rex this was kind of like biting into a really crispy sandwich or like a really like crispy deep fried chimichanga where there'd be like an initial resistance and then a loud crunching sound. They just hear from miles away.
Just a big old hamburger.
I mean, he is kind of shaped like Borger.
He is burger shaped. That's why they went extinct.
Yeah. It's like that whole gently like hamburger picture. I would hold a baby one of these gently like a hamburger.
Oh, I would too.
One of my favorite little things is that baby ankylosaurs have a fun, cute little name. They're called Scutelings.
That's made up.
All
That's
names are
amazing.
made up, Alex.
That's so cute. Who came up with that?
I have no idea.
I love that.
That's great. Scutelings. It's like baby
Scutelings.
pterosaurs being called flaplings.
And apparently baby stegosaurs are steglings.
I like that so much.
It's so cute.
See, for theropods, this is the one place theropods aren't as fun. We just call them chicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Right, I mean, it is what they are. But I want, like, a baby tyrannosaur to have a name other than, like, a tyrannosaur chick.
I'm actually really sad that a perfect name for a baby tyrannosaur was already taken by a name of a Pokemon. Tyrunt.
That's
Oh, that is a good
Tyrants.
name.
It is a good name.
It's a good name.
That's good. Speaking of tyrannosaurs, we're looking at the death squad is just continually moving around. What I do like is that they're kind of moving in a loosely associated group, which is something we think that Albertosaurians may have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do, especially Albertosaurus, actually. There's one mass death assemblage of them that has every age of Albertosaurus and nothing else.
Isn't there that one trackway too?
There's a couple trackways, I think.
But Albertosaurus and Gorgosaurus, as much as you can attribute tracks
Right.
to it. Yeah.
And there's also the Teratophonius thing now from Utah, which is another multi-individual bone bed, although that hasn't even been described yet formally. They described the geology, not any of the skeletons.
Bye.
Oh,
Jesus.
Where
this is a nightmare. Is this going to affect their rating at all? That they can't defend themselves against their only predator?
it might.
It actually might. I also really appreciated that at least there, the Albertosaurus, after it killed it, just kind of stood there for a half a second,
seemed
staring
surprised.
at it like it was surprised that that worked.
I didn't think that would happen. So an astute viewer may notice that we've been fairly inconsistent in how we pronounce the name of this dinosaur. And so I think now we should start a segment where we discuss the proper way to pronounce this dinosaur's name.
So I have a question about Euoplocephalus's tail, and that it's pointed in this game, and I'm wondering if that's actually, I don't know, based on anything. I don't
on
know
it.
what their tails look like. Yeah.
What do you mean point? You mean like how like these are kind of cones? At the
Yeah,
end?
yeah. There's cones.
Yeah, I don't, at least off the top of my head, I don't think that is based on the actual like skeletal structure of the tail. It might be kind of based on how Borealopelta has what look to be relatively exaggerated spikes coming off of its osteoderm, so that might be where they got the representation of Euoplocephalus's tail club in this game.
Like, I know I've seen the shape before. I just don't know if it was Euoplocephalus.
The
Euoplocephalus.
European Sisyphus, I'm looking at a paper right now that has like a drawing of the tail, and the like two lobes of the club look pretty bulbous. They don't look very like coney, but that could, I think, easily just be like speculative.
But are you looking at the Euoplocephalus specimen at the Royal Tyrrell that's on display? Because that one is actually Scolosaurus now.
Really?
Yeah, it's not Euoplocephalus.
It's not Euoplocephalus?
No, it's not. But Scolosaurus was only recently resurrected. A lot of the Canadian ankylosaurs were all considered the same as Euoplocephalus.
Now, Jimbo, I just thought of another interesting fact for our viewers.
What's that?
So, right, like most ankylosaurs, Euoplocephalus is like, it's got osteoderms everywhere. It's defended. But you know what else it's defended as? From
What's that?
Russian military ground invasions, because it's Euoplocephalus.
You know what I'm not looking forward to
Hang
is
on, this
that we're
might be
going to
a
have
guess,
like 4 different comments telling us how to pronounce it correctly.
Oh, we're gonna have
You know
so
what-
many.
you know what I'm-
So while the rest of the
Absolutely.
while the rest of the Euplops in this enclosure are killed by the Albertosaurus death squad, I think we should rank the animal's design.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you
right.
want to
That's
go
the
to
point
the
of this video.
Right,
Do you want
that's
to
the
go to
point
the
of the
species
video.
viewer for that?
Let's
Or
go
do
to
you
the
want to
species viewer. Let's cut this segment early and pretend that the rest of the animals lived in harmony.
Get away from the carnage.
It's just terrific. So here we are in the species viewer. And I think we can get a better look at the designs of these animals. I do like the blue.
I like the blue a lot too.
Yeah, we can change it if we want, but I thought the blue was
I like the blue. It's a good design. I mean, there are some inaccuracies with it, as we discussed, but they're pretty minor.
It's just pleasing. It's like, I like looking at it.
I do
And the
too.
skins are nice.
It's personally my favorite clubbed ankylosaur in the game.
Oh, wow.
Well, isn't the only other one Ankylosaurus?
No,
Yeah.
Crichton-Pelta.
Oh, well,
Right.
Crichtonsaurus, Crichton-Pelta, whatever it is. Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, like, do we want to go in order? How do we want to diagnose this?
Let's go in order. Amelia, you can go first.
Oh, good. It bugs me in a way I can't put to words.
What?
Great.
No, like there's something about it that looks off. Like it's like a lot of the details are right, but altogether somehow it's not doing it for me. Like I don't know. It looks like a pine cone. It looks too round, and like I know real ankylosaurs were as we said hamburger shaped. Like they were a bit even like flatter and wider, and I think that's what's bugging me. And
I think so. Yeah.
because I think like yeah, it's too round. It's like a football. Like
It's not round enough. Or well,
no.
wide enough.
It's not wide enough. It's football shaped, and I think that's bugging me more than I expected, and I don't know why. So am I ranking it then?
You should vote your rank, and then we'll do the we'll vote and everything.
I will give it a B.
So I like it. I think that it is, before I just mentioned that there's some inaccuracies. There are with any dinosaur in this game. I don't really care that much. It's just we're paleontologists. We got to say it when we make a video about it. But I kind of agree with Amelia that despite this being a very reasonable rendition of this animal, Like, you get 90% of the way there, I think, in terms of what the real animal might have looked like. And there's a lot of details that are right. I still overall don't find it particularly visually appealing, and also don't like that it's such a pushover and can be murdered at a mass scale by like one predator in its ecosystem. I'm also going to give it a B.
All right, who's next?
Scott.
It's Scott.
Oh, yes. So I'll agree with everything y'all are saying, and I'll counter with, but I like him. And for that, I'm going to give it an A. I think it's absolutely adorable. I love the little burping sounds it makes and the little hops it does. And
It does trundle.
I want it to be my friend. And I would give it points against it for, or I guess take points away. That's how that works. For it being so easily murdered by a predator that it should rightfully obliterate the knees of. But if we're doing that, then every single sauropod is D tier because a couple Proceratosaurus can take down a Brachiosaurus with no problem. So I'm going to give it an A. I love this little guy.
Okay, Alex.
I gotta say A. I think it's just a really aesthetically pleasing design. Right? Like right? Like if I'm thinking like what does a Jurassic World ankylosaur look like? Right? And I think about all the ankylosaur designs we have. That one is it's the best, basically.
Yeah, I can't say you're wrong there. It is a very good design for this group in this game, especially. And Dalton?
Yeah, no, I think like this looks like it could have come straight out of The Lost World. And it's still decently like good because ankylosaurs actually do kind of look like weird monsters. It is, like, yeah, there's a few things here and there that could be improved, but I also really like this design, and I would put it at an A.
Okay, well then Amelia and I are outvoted, and this is officially an A-tier design.
And don't worry, we're not going to be super nice about everything, but we just feel that this is...
It's a good one.
It's a good
it's a good one.
It's a good boy.
do like. I just had the thought that essentially one of my criteria for is this a pretty good design for any of the animals in this game is it recognizably the animal that it is? And yes, it absolutely is. If you just showed me the silhouette of this, of like, who's that Pokemon with that? It's Euoplocephalus. There's nothing else it could be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was always at like a high B, but I think remembering the little trundle it does, I might have also changed my vote. Changed my vote to A.
It does
John
the best
Voight?
trundle.
By John Voight.
Your voice
So-
for Eepy Cheepy?
It trundles real good, and I like it. So that's Euoplocephalus. I think it's time to spin the wheel.
Oh. It was a really excited wheel spin, everybody. I'm proud of us.
We remembered to remove Euoplocephalus from here, right?
No, we didn't.
Oh, lovely.
The odds of getting it again, though.
It's Triceratops. Okay.
All right. Iconic.
Hey.
Wow.
All right. So our next episode will be a pretty famous dinosaur then. And we'll be talking about Triceratops in the next episode. So if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate all the support we've gotten already in our very young channel. And again, we'd appreciate if you like this video and subscribe to get notified when we release the next episode. Thank you so
Remember
much.
to hit that bell.
All right. Smash that bell like a Euoplocephalus should smash a Gorgosaurus's leg bones, but won't.